What's up and welcome to another episode of Gizmo Slip. Today we're talking about 8 of the very best smartphones. We're going to be doing a mega comparison. We're going to talk about a ton of different features. As you can see here, we're going to break them down. We're going to give a rating to each of the phones for every feature. And at the end, we're going to see how these ratings add up in a value-based comparison based on their price. And then to finish it off, we're going to see which of these phones is the very best regardless of price. Now, because we're talking about 8 different phones, I can't talk about every single feature on every single phone, but I tried to include the most important features and I tried to weight these ratings as best as I can. I'm not perfect. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below at which points you disagree with me or you agree with me. I'm really curious what all of you think at home. Now, real quick before we get this comparison going, I just want to let you know it means so much to me if you subscribe to the channel for more awesome tech comparisons as well as wacky tests that I do here on Gizmo Slip. And if you're excited about this video, I want you to go down there right now and smash that like button. Let's see how many likes we can get on this video. It's going to be freaking epic. Let's get started. Now, which of these phones are we going to be comparing today? First up, we have the Galaxy Note 10, the Note 10 Plus, then the Galaxy S10 Plus. These, I think, are 3 of the best offerings from Samsung. Of course, there's a lot of offerings from Samsung, and I can't just do like all of Samsung phones. Maybe that should be another mega comparison, like all the way back to the Galaxy S8, pros and cons. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then we've got the iPhone XS Max. Of course, we're gonna have an iPhone in this comparison. We have the OnePlus 7 Pro, the ROG Phone, which is like an insane gaming phone that's like just released in China, should be releasing to the United States sometime soon here. We have the Red Magic 3, which recently released to the United States as well. And then we have the Zenfone 6. Now, there's obviously some other great phones out there that I can't fit in this comparison. I think an 8-way comparison is the most I can cram into any video, but like the Huawei P30 Pro is an awesome phone, though it's definitely very controversial right now with the trade war going on with China. Whether or not Huawei will pull through with that, I think they will. But for now, I'm not going to include them in my top 8 comparison. The iPhone XR is a very interesting phone and worth mentioning. And then, of course, you have the phones from LG, which didn't make this list either. So without further ado, let's kick off this comparison and let's talk about price. First up, we have the Note 10 coming in at $949, the Note 10 Plus at $1,099, the S10 Plus at $949, and the iPhone XS Max at $1,099. So these top 4 phones are the most expensive in this lineup. And then we have the bottom 4 phones, which are mid-range phones that still provide massive bang for the buck with some really outstanding features. We have the OnePlus 7 Pro at $669, the ROG Phone 2 at $899, the Red Magic 3 at $479, and the Zenfone 6 at $499. So we've got quite a range of prices in this comparison, all the way up from $1,100 down to $479. It's going to be very interesting to see how the top phone compares to the bottom phone, considering the cheaper phones are less than half the price of the more expensive phones. Let's talk about the display. People value the display so much in their smartphone these days. How big is it? What type of display it is? How many pixels per square inch is it? Let's go ahead and dive into this. First of all, we have 2 types of displays. We have an OLED displays and we have IPS displays. The Zenfone 6 is our only IPS display phone out of these 8 phones. Now, the primary difference between an OLED display and an IPS display is that an OLED display will be able to get brighter, have higher contrast, and be a little bit more colorful. The IPS display on the Zenfone 6 is a really good display, don't get me wrong, but it's not an OLED. The other major caveat I will say with OLED displays is that you do have to watch out for screen burn-in, so you're going to want to be careful about that. I made a video about screen burn-in recently if you want to check that out. I'll have a link in the video description down below. The next important factor is the PPI, or pixels per square inch, and you can see that we have several phones that are only 1080p displays, from the Note 10, the ROG Phone 2, the Red Magic 3, and the Zenfone 6. Now, I personally am just fine owning a 1080p display. Now, there are some of you out there that really like to have closer to 500 ppi. Maybe you hold the phone really close to your face a lot, or maybe you use the phone for VR. Those kinds of use scenarios are where PPI really makes a difference. But for most people who hold their phone at like a foot away from their face, PPI over 400 is plenty. It's great. You really will not see a pixel, period. And I think the main advantage to having lower PPI at 1080p is that you're going to be able to have better overall battery life. Now, the last major consideration is the refresh rate. Now, 5 of these phones are 60 hertz displays, and we have 3 high refresh rate, high response rate displays. The really good thing about a high refresh rate display is that you just see the buttery smoothness when you're scrolling up and down web pages, you're browsing through menus. It's just easier to navigate, and it just looks a lot nicer. But there's also advantages for gaming. If you're playing games that can actually hit over 60 frames per second on a phone, then you're going to see that advantage in actual gameplay as well. And the ROG Phone 2 and the Red Magic 3 do cater towards gamers a lot, and that's one of the main reasons why they have that high refresh rate display. Overall, I really value having an OLED display that's also a high refresh rate display. So for me, I really like the OnePlus 7 Pro and the ROG Phone 2. They both have high refresh rate displays and they're OLED displays. Then the ROG Phone 2 has the 120 hertz, which is just amazing, and the OnePlus 7 Pro has 90 hertz but has a higher overall resolution. So those two put together, basically, I think match in the middle for both being awesome. That's why I picked those two phones to have the best overall phone display. Next up, we have the design of these phones. Now, for design, I factor in 3 primary things. First of all is the screen to body ratio. Is the display bezel-less? The second major thing for design is the weight in your hand, which will also be largely determined by the build quality. And the last major thing is the overall volume of the device. The volume of the device equals the device's overall size, which also indicates how easy that device will be to use in one hand. Taking a look here, I think the major winners in design is the Galaxy Note 10 Plus because of that 91% screen to body ratio and the overall small size and volume compared to the screen size that the phone has. The runner-up for design, I believe, is the OnePlus 7 Pro because it's a bezel-less overall experience, and so is the Zenfone 6, though the Zenfone 6 has a fairly large border all the way around. Taking a look at the ratings here, I gave the OnePlus 7 Pro the highest overall score because it does have that bezel-less design. The Note 10s are a very close second, followed by the Galaxy S10 and the Zenfone 6. Now, the ROG Phone 2 and Red Magic 3, I docked them a lot of points because they both have large top and bottom bezels, and they're very large in the hand with not great screen to body ratios. But there's some advantages to that, such as gaming, so that's kind of pros and cons, and it depends a lot on what you value in a phone. The next category is performance, and let's go ahead and take a look at the internal specs of each of these devices. Now, the most important internal component of a smartphone, of course, is the computer processing unit, the CPU, and we have the Snapdragon 855 on all of these phones except the iPhone XS Max and the ROG Phone 2, which has the Snapdragon 855 Plus, which is like an overclocked, better cooled version of the Snapdragon 855, and it's able to run at slightly higher clock speeds, giving you like a small performance boost. Now, the A12 Bionic in the iPhone XS Max is a fantastic chip, and I believe still the fastest and best overall chip. The Snapdragon 855 Plus, an equal score with the A12 Bionic, because I think those are just like neck and neck, versus the Snapdragon 855 is just a slight step behind those other two processors. Taking a look at the ratings here, we can see that the iPhone XS Max gets a 9.5 and the ROG Phone 2 gets a 9.5, tying for first. Next up, we have battery, and this is something that's super important to basically everyone. We want to make sure that even when under a heavy use day, we still have enough juice at the end of the day to finish it out. It really sucks panicking and trying to get your phone to a wall outlet. So how do these phones stack up? Now, when you're taking a look at battery life, there's really 3 main things. First of all, the overall battery size, the mAh in the battery itself. Second of all, what processor is powering the smartphone? How power hungry is that processor? All of these phones use a 7nm processor size, meaning that they're all going to be very similarly power efficient. The third major consideration is what refresh rate is the phone running at. A higher refresh rate, 90 Hz and 120 Hz, is going to drain the battery significantly faster, especially especially if you're playing a video game that really is cranking out those frame rates versus something like YouTube, where it's just running at like 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. It's basically going to cancel out that higher refresh rate and give you the battery life that you would get anyway if you're running at 60 hertz. Ultimately, the high refresh rate phones in the bottom left is going to vary a lot more than the other 5 phones because of that high refresh rate display. So how do these phones stack up? Well, all of them will easily get you through a full day, and for the most part, get you through most of a second day, if not the whole rest of the second day. It all depends on how much you use the phone. Now, my estimated hours listed here reflect a mixture of light and heavy usage. Think like browsing the web, getting on Instagram for a bit, watching some Netflix, then playing a game for a bit, doing a healthy mixture like most people do on a day-to-day basis. Now, the number one highest rated battery in any smartphone, I believe, is going to be the Zenfone 6 because we have a 60 hertz refresh rate along with a 5000 mAh battery size. The next up is going to be that ROG Phone 2 at a 6000 mAh battery size, but it has a 120 hertz display. So depending on what you're doing with it, you could get more battery life than the Zenfone 6 or significantly less if you're taking advantage of that high refresh rate display. Next up, we're going to talk about special features. Now, you've got a ton of special features, especially on the gaming phones and the Galaxy series. Let's break this down. So first of all, we have the Galaxy series. We have the Note 10s having the stylus as well as DeX. Now, unfortunately, the new Galaxy Note series has no more headphone jack, and only the Note 10 Plus has that SD card slot. And you can see that about half these phones have SD cards, half of them don't. Depends on whether you really value that or not. Now, I personally love having an SD card slot because I just put all my photos and videos that I record on that, and then it's also easier to transfer all those out at the end. So it's up to you whether or not you even take advantage of it. Now, the standout features for the Samsung devices, of course, is the stylus on the Note devices, as well as DeX, which is the ability to hook your smartphone up to a laptop or a display using a command module to be able to use it like a personal computer. And I personally love the idea of this. If you're someone that just uses like a computer very casually to do emails and watch Netflix or browse the web, this should work just fine for you as a replacement for your desktop. Now, as far as special features, the iPhone XS Max doesn't really have much except Face ID, which we'll get to in a second. The OnePlus 7 Pro, again, doesn't have much for special features aside from the fact that it has the pop-up camera, which is really cool because it enables the phone to have a bezel-less display. Now, both the ROG Phone 2 and the Red Magic 3 have the same feature set, essentially. We have no SD card slots on either one, we have a headphone jack, and we have a number of gaming features that allow you to, for example, hook up controllers directly to the phone, and also having air triggers on the edges of the phone, as well as having additional cooling for the processor for extended gaming sessions. Then, of course, with the Zenfone 6, you do have the headphone jack and that flip around camera that enables the phone to have a bezel-less display. Now, also under special features, we have how each phone is unlocked. For all the new Galaxy devices, we have ultrasonic in-screen fingerprint sensors. These are the best in-screen fingerprint sensors. They work more reliably and more consistently than the optical in-screen fingerprint sensors that is in the OnePlus 7 Pro and the ROG Phone 2. The iPhone XS Max, of course, only allows you to unlock with Face ID, which I think it's a shame that this is the only thing on the iPhone XS Max. How is there not a fingerprint sensor? I don't know, Apple. It's time to update your stuff. Hopefully, next month, it's a lot better. And then, of course, we have the Red Magic 3 and the Zenfone only having a rear fingerprint sensor, which some people actually will really like. And, of course, all the Android devices have like a face scan that allows you to log in, but it's not as secure as something like Face ID. And then we have the charging method of each device. You can see that some of these devices, especially Samsung ones, have pretty advanced wireless charging, even power sharing in reverse if you want to charge, for example, like your AirPods with a wireless case or Galaxy Buds with a wireless case. It's a pretty cool feature. Another important feature that a lot of manufacturers are pushing is the wired charge speed. If you need a quick top off, you can see that the Galaxy Note 10 Plus has an excellent fast charge at 45 watts, though you're going to have to buy your own 45 watt charger because it doesn't come with one in the box. Overall, the Galaxy S10 Plus checks all of the boxes, even more than the Note 10 Plus because the Note 10 Plus doesn't have the headphone jack. The runner-up, of course, is the ROG Phone 2 because of all those gaming features. It's just, I think, the best overall gaming phone out there because of all those additional accessories that you can get for it, so I've got to give it a 9 as well. Next up, we have have the camera. This is going to be a fairly detailed comparison. I broke this down into 3 separate categories. You have selfie mode, you have photos in the rear camera, and you have videos in the rear camera. And then we have an overall camera average between those 3 categories. Here we go. First up, taking a look at the specs. Now, I am not going to break down the specs on all of these different cameras. Now, if you want to pause it and take a look at these specs, go right ahead. But I'm gonna go ahead and just move on to each of the ratings. Taking a look at the selfie camera lineup, we have a 9.1 on all of the Galaxy devices, as well as the Zenfone 6. The Zenfone 6, of course, has that flip around camera, so you're using the main camera for the front and back. But I mean, the Galaxy phones just have such a superb front camera on them. It's very similar in quality overall. Now, the reason why I left the ROG Phone 2 and the Red Magic 3 blank in this particular camera comparison is because I don't have enough knowledge about them yet. I do have a Red Magic 3 on the way, and I'm trying to buy an ROG Phone 2 and import it right now. It's just really hard to get your hands on one of those right now. So just know that I've left those out of the discussion for now, but they should be really good cameras. I just don't know if they're quite add up. I'm guessing they're around 8.5 to 9.1 in terms of what I would rate them, but I need to get them in hand to be able to tell for sure. So how do these phones stack up when it comes to taking photos with the rear camera? The Galaxy Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus and the S10 Plus all have identical camera sensors on the back, though the Note 10 Plus technically has slightly better zoom camera on the back. The Zenfone 6, I think, is second. It has that giant 48 megapixel sensor. It's really great at taking photos. The iPhone XS Max is also great, and the OnePlus 7 Pro is also great at taking photos. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these phones when it comes to taking photos. But what about video? Well, I'll say the Galaxy Note 10 and the S10 series are the best for video. You can record video in a wide angle mode, main camera mode, and telephoto. For example, the OnePlus 7 Pro, I rated it lower because you can't switch to wide angle or telephoto at all with the OnePlus 7 Pro when you're in video mode, and that, I think, just really hinders the OnePlus 7 Pro's video functionality. Now, when you put all 3 of these ratings together, this is what you get. The Galaxy Note 10 and the S10 Plus all basically have identical scores, 9.37 for those, with the Zenfone 6 right behind it at 9.1. So when it comes to the complete overall photos and videos package selfie camera, I think the Samsung lineup is the best. Now, I also want to mention the Google Pixel 3 as well as the Huawei P30 Pro. Both of those phones have excellent cameras and are right there at the top, if not the top camera smartphones out there today. All right, it's time. Let's talk about what phone I think is the best overall value when you take all of these categories, you average them up, and then you compare that with the price of the device. Drum roll, please. The number 1 best smartphone for the money, of course, is the Zenfone 6. It's got the overall package, and it's only $499. They're also shipping directly to the United States now, so you don't have to import this. The next best phone for value is the Red Magic 3. It's got a fantastic overall display, an OLED, 90 Hz refresh rate, and a price tag of only $479. That's insane. That's so good. And it's got a massive battery as well. It's just so much good stuff going on with the Red Magic 3. The OnePlus 7 Pro, bezel-less display, and only $669? Are you kidding me? It's a freaking steal of a deal. The S10 Plus in 4th place represents a fantastic deal for the money as well, especially if you can get some kind of major discount. And with the Note 10 series launching, if you keep your eye out, you can probably get $100 to $200 discount at a lot of retailers right now. Now, the Note 10 series has the worst bang for the buck of all the Android phones, and that's simply because they have very high price tags, and they're really not that much better than some of the Android competition. You'll see in a second, there are fantastic phones. Hold on, don't judge me yet. It really just all comes down to price, and what you're getting for them, it's just not that great. And of course, you have the iPhone XS Max. You're paying the Apple tax if you want to buy one of those. I mean, I have an iPhone XS Max. I really liked it. I used it for most of the last year. But let's face it, the iPhones are lacking in a lot of features that these Android devices have, and they have a very high price tag. Okay, it's time. Which of these 8 phones do I think is the number 1 best smartphone? Let's find out. Here we go. Bam. The Galaxy Note 10 Plus and the S10 Plus actually tied according to my ratings. That's just because like the Note 10 Plus has that stylus, it has a little bit better design, but the Galaxy S10 Plus has a little bit better feature set. It has that headphone jack, and they're overall very comparable in battery life. And of course, they have the best overall cameras out of all 8 devices, and that gives them the cutting edge to outscore the rest of the competition. In third place, we have the ROG Phone 2 with the insane battery life, the insane 120 hertz display. It's hard to argue. This thing's great, and if the camera is also great, maybe it could actually beat the Note series. But we'll have to see. I'm really looking forward to getting one of the ROG Phone 2s in eventually. In fourth place, we have the Galaxy Note 10. Again, just that excellent minimal bezel design. It's a really fantastic overall phone. In fifth place, we have the Zenfone 6. Just that battery life. So many people care about that lower price tag. The main reason why the Zenfone 6 beats out the OnePlus 7 Pro is that it just did a little bit better in my camera ratings. It's got a little bit better video mode, and then the selfie mode is also a little bit better. If you don't factor that in, the OnePlus 7 Pro does have a little bit higher rating. Then you have the Red Magic 3, the gaming features, this large battery, the 90 hertz OLED display, but the overall design of the device could use some improvement, and we're unsure about the camera. If the camera turns out to be really good, again, the score could go up some more. And then we have the iPhone XS Max coming in last at 8.36. And I know a lot of you are going to disagree and say, the iPhone should be first. Here's the thing. The iPhone has a giant notch. Almost all of these Android devices have a better overall design. They also all have fingerprint scanners in some manner or form. They also have a lot of additional features like the DeX on Samsung, or the gaming features of the OnePlus 7 Pro, or the bezel-less display of the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Zenfone 6. I mean, there's just... the iPhone XS Max, it's just really hard to recommend it right now. I really hope Apple comes out swinging hard next month and releases a fantastic phone with a much improved design, though I highly doubt it. All the leaks and rumors are indicating that Face ID is here to stay, at least for now. Come on, Apple, time to get your head out of your buttocks and get back into the race. Make a bezel-less phone already. You really, really need it if you want to be able to compete with these new Android devices. Well, that's it for this mega comparison. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informational, and be sure to correct me on all the mistakes and errors I made in this video, because I'm sure I made a ton and forgot a lot of features on your favorite phone, and I'm really sorry about that. But I promise to do better next time and improve this. This is the first time I've tried this format, so if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and let me know. And if you want to see more awesome tech videos, hit that subscribe button, tap that notification bell, and I will see you in the next one. Brandon out. Woo!